Um, Good morning, everyone. I am Ruby Baweja, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's session. And really thrilled to have you here with us, and especially at the time when procurement leaders like you are still navigating the complexity more than ever now. But first, let's talk about why we designed today's session the way we did. Many of you and your peers told us the same thing, that there is bombardment of the theoretical talk about Gen AI, but very few are showing us how it actually works. So we built this webinar to break through that noise and show you the practical side of AI with the live action demos. So this is not fluff. We are not hyping it in any way. We picked up 3 distinct operational use cases, and we are going to demonstrate you live today that reflects the real challenges that you are likely facing. So to quickly give you the overview of what's ahead, this is what today's agenda looks like. We'll start by looking at the procurement lifecycle. So this is where we'll see how things flow from the need to delivery. And then we'll dig into the key challenges and opportunities that the procurement teams are facing today. We'll then move into the live action demo. And this is where we'll see how the real life scenarios actually work with AI. And then we'll get into how this benefits you and the key takeaways, what these ideas could really look like inside your organization. And then we'll open it up with Q&A, where you can ask questions to our resident experts here. Now, of course, every organization has its own processes, platforms, and data. So to ensure the relevance, what we did was we took the poll with over 75 procurement professionals, and we came up with 3 common themes. And this is how we landed on the use cases that you're going to see today. Just a quick note, there are tools that you will see in the demo today, whether it's a model, a workflow engine, or an email trigger. This is not what's most important. What matters is the value that these tools are going to be generating with the speed, the savings, and the smarter decisions. So our goal here is to spark ideas and to expand your imagination and help you start thinking, how can an AI agent solve your pain points faster than we thought was possible? And with that, I'm going to be introducing our 2 leaders who are going to be bringing the perfect blend of the strategic insight and the technical execution. Khan is the veteran CIO and the executive advisor who's led procurement and IT transformations for multi-billion-dollar enterprises and has turned the complexity into the competitive advantage. And then we have Gaurav Chaudhary, who is the brains behind the AI workflows that you're going to see today, and an engineer who doesn't just build AI, but builds it for the real business outcomes in procurement, demand planning, and supply chain. And together, they're going to walk through how the AI agents solve these problems live and in action. And with that, let's kick things off with the strategic view of the procurement lifecycle and the evolving work landscape. So with that, Khan, over to you.
Thank you, Ruby, for the warm introduction. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening. It is fantastic to be here with all of you today on this call. So roughly 30 years ago, Bill Gates, the co-founder of Microsoft, captured the essence of our time with a concise yet profound common vision: information at your fingertips. Now, this statement wasn't just a prediction. It became the driving force in the continuing evolution of the information age, the digital era that has shaped our recent history. Now, if you fast forward to today, access to information become access to knowledge, to expertise, and it leads us to potentially additional revenue streams, the ultimate goal in some cases, right? However, every week we are likely leaving money on the table, not because the IT team isn't working hard enough, but because our system don't quite talk to each other, and our data lives in silo, and the buyers are buried in spreadsheet. So the truth, it is not a resource problem. It is a visibility problem and a speed problem at that. So today we are going to show you how AI agents quietly fix that, working behind the scenes in real workflows without disrupting your ERP or even ripping out what is already working. One of our clients uncovered over $200,000 in preventable vendor overpayments in just under 6 weeks. And this can be a repetitive saving every year. With our approach, we believe that proper implementation of these AI agents will enable users to be better at their jobs while enhancing their skill set and knowledge. From a broader picture, however, this type of effort will also increase revenue per employee, which I believe is one of the key productivity KPIs that are often the focus at the senior leadership level. So all in all, no big project, no full system change, just one smart agent solving one expensive problem. Now let's zoom out for a second. From sourcing all the way through to contract optimization, every stage of a typical end-to-end procurement lifecycle has pain points. And every one of those pain points or opportunities can now be solved by an AI agent. So let me walk you through this framework that you see on the screen right now. It maps out the core function of the procurement lifecycle, the most common challenges we often hear in our interviews with over 75 procurement leaders, and the type of AI agents that are solving issues today. So we're not claiming this is a complete list by any means. It's not. There are dozens of variations in the workflows, the system, and industry-specific needs. But what you see here are patterns repeated across mid-sized organizations. So for example, forecasting and inventory planning. Most companies deal with stock out or overstocked, not because their teams are ineffective, but because the data is fragmented and reactive. AI agent help forecast demand based on real-time trends, seasonality, and vendor lead time. And that typically leads to approximately 5 to 15% reduction in inventory costs. Let's look at contract monitoring, the last one on the list here, where missed obligation and renewal quietly erode margin. With AI, we have seen 30 to 50% better contract utilization just by keeping key contractual terms in front of the team. So I'll pause here, not to read every line, but to really encourage you to scan this list with one question in mind. Where in the process are we still doing this manually? That is usually your best starting point for an AI agent. And remember, the ROI number here aren't just theoretical. They are based on what companies like yours are already seeing. And in most cases, those results begin with showing up within weeks, not quarters. And this table is not exhaustive at all. They are just the starter use case with common scenarios. So the point is, if you are still relying on manual flows, tribal knowledge, and Excel-based processing, you're not just slow or ineffective, you are becoming non-competitive very quickly. So let's take a closer look at 3 common procurement use cases. And we would like to run through a demo for each one to illustrate our point more succinctly. For our first use case, let's dive into demand forecasting. Now, most demand planning today still relies on spreadsheets. Now, what would our world be like without spreadsheet, right? And it's disconnected, backward looking, and heavily dependent on tribal knowledge, especially when demands spike daily, even hourly, or seasonality shifts. That leads to missed sales when you under order and working capital locked up when you overstock. So in this demo, we'll show how an AI agent blend your ERP data with real world signals to predict what you will need before the gaps appear. So with that, I would like to pass over to Gaurav, who will walk you through this demo. Gaurav, over to you.
Thank you, Khan. And thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. Let me share my screen and I will walk you through. I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes, yeah, let's just keep up. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with the data, right? So for today's demo, we are not actually going to integrate with any ERP system. So we will be the input would be a Google spreadsheet and the output also would be Google spreadsheet. So it's like easy for everyone to follow. So let's start with the data. So this is like a typical ERP data that we see, right? So it has all the different items, the product that one would want to order. There are the vendors who provide this order and the lead time and description all about them. And then we have data about the sales, right? So there is a past year sales data and the monthly data for last 6 months, right? So this is 6 months from May till October. And then we have the inventory level, current inventory level, any orders that we have currently on the PO, and any quantity that we have on the sales order. So this is the basic data that we have extracted from the ERP system. Okay, so let me go to the very first workflow. So here we are going to do a demand forecasting. Okay, so this workflow has a couple of steps to it. So let me run the first step. So that is the first step, the data enrichment. Okay, let me run it and I will also walk you through this. So what this workflow is doing is like it's taking the data that we just saw in the work spreadsheet, right? It's taking that data and is going to that, putting the data into the AI model, okay, through an agent, and it is trying to enrichment. So this step we are doing enrichment. So enrichment, what we are doing is that we are taking the data we have, like the sales data, past data, and then we are adding it to it. Like the seasonal data or different indexes, right? Like, so there is a Google trend index, there is USA volume index. There are different indexes that and sources that we try to add to the base data. So it get enriched and then it helps down the line when we try to make the forecasting and demand, right? So right now it's doing that process. So it's taking all the data and it's finding different sources, right? So these are like now these are kind of a deep learning models, right? So and it takes a little bit of time because they are now more accurate and they provide like more predictable data. So it takes its own sweet time. So it will take a couple of minutes here to go through all the data, finds all the sources, right? And then come back with the enrichment data points. So let it run for I think it will take 1 or 2 minutes in that sense. And let me go back again if you want to, just take a quick look at what data we already have. So while that is running in the background. So, okay, these are all the different data points that we are going to, we are already sending to the model. Okay. So that is done. So this process, yeah, Khan, so you were saying something?
Yes, I was just curious. Given what you're showing here as a demo, we talk about inputting or sourcing ERP data table, right? But from a real world scenario, obviously we have multitude of different sources that we can ingest as well, correct?
Yeah, definitely we can do. So it depends on the system. So if they are open systems, right, that have APIs that we can connect with the APIs, then we can directly connect with their databases. If they don't have any APIs or if there is some restriction, right, then we can export the data out of those systems in like in a tablet format and Excel format, and then like similar to what we are doing right now, that can be done. So there are like again multiple options depending on what the system is, how it is integrated, right? It's like closed system, it's open system. So yeah, totally depend on that. But yeah, we have multiple options. Yeah. And so yeah, this step is done. So let me go back again to the spreadsheet. So what it did was, this is the MDIS data spreadsheet that we have. Let me go back. So this is the original data that we have on the left, right? So we input everything. And then we have the index and as well as the US volume data. So we have 6 months. So we are trying to predict like, so what's going to be the sales, right, matrices and everything for the next 6 months. We are trying to predict the forecasting, right, sales forecasting. So we are taking 6 months from May till October, right, and same we are doing for the US volume from May till October. Okay, so these all matrices are now added to the sheet, back to the sheet. So let's go to the second point. So the second point is actually the demand forecasting, right? So now let me run in, then I will walk you guys through it. So now what it is doing is it is taking all the data that we just saw, right? The endless data we have, and is again putting it in through the model. And now what the model is trying to do is like it is taking all the data, base data, like the historic data, as well as the vendors lead time, all the data points that we have, and also the end risk data point that we collected from the first step, and it's taking all that data and trying to predict what's the sale prediction is going to be for the next 6 months, right? From May till October, what's that going to look like? So as you see, like it's again it's like a newer model from the OpenAI, and it's like it will take its own again sweet time, because it will do all that data crunching behind the scene and come up with those data points for us. And so one thing very like it's very we can say easy from this tool is that if we compare this with a traditional software development tool, right, and how we do there is this tool is very easy to set up, right? Like it can be set up in a few weeks, and it's also easy to maintain. So now we feel these all companies, they are coming up with new AI models every few weeks and months, right? So Google is coming up with their new models. Anthropic is doing that, Facebook, and obviously OpenAI are there. These are the leaders in these terms, right? And they're coming up with new models. Those are like very accurate, right? They're fast and they are more predictable. So if later on, like we see that in the production system, and we see that okay, the current model is a little bit lagging behind the speed or something, and we want to improve it with a new model. So it's very easy to replace one model with the another, right? It doesn't need like a lot of deployment time and anything. You can simply come back to the tools that we have. We can just replace it. So let's say the Google's newest model, right? The Gemini 2.5 Pro. It's more accurate, and now we want it to be that we want it to use it for data processing. We can just come it to our system. We can just like enable that model through the APIs. And it's like a plug and play kind of thing. So this kind of system nowadays, it makes very easy for us to like design these systems for the companies in the production environment. So it's like a very good benefit.
So Gaurav, just to emphasize a little bit more on this forecasting layer, right? The AI forecasting layer that's running right now. The AI model that you have referenced, applies multiple variable regression across inputs such as, let's say sale velocity, or, looking from a business perspective, right? It could apply like sale velocity, seasonality, weighting, lead time per vendors, promotional calendar, or even, weather or external search trend. That would help, to apply to this layer. Would you say so?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it takes multiple data points into consideration. So it also depends on what items you're selling, right? Who the client is. So in our case, we saw the items we are selling are food items, right? So in this case, the USDA volume data point makes sense. But if you are maybe manufacturing something else, right? You're into metal or something else, right? Then we could choose a different data source that would make sense for that business case. So it's totally depend on what we are trying to achieve. But yeah, this model takes like multiple those data points into consideration and try to predict the sales. So so this process is now complete. Let me again go back to the sheet. So now we have the forecast data. So so we have the original data in here, okay, and then we have the forecast sales data, right? So this is from May 2025 till October 2025. So let's see. So if we go back to, let's do a small comparison here, right? So yeah, so May 2024, last year, the sales that was actually happened was 6148, right? The number was, and the model predicted that it would be a little bit higher for 6465 numbers. And similarly for June, there was 4465, and it predicted that now the sales would be 5,713. So similarly, there's a variation, between last year the sales in similar months and now for the same months, but this current year, right? So there's a small variation, and so that is across those different items. Okay. So I think that is the end of the first of the use cases. Over to you, Khan.
Well, thank you, Ralph. So as we all can see, what's powerful here isn't just the math here, it's the timing also. The team can now align, purchasing decisions with what the business will need, not just what is used to need. And, you don't even need a new system in this case. This agent works off of your current data with results that can be delivered in days. So overall, this isn't just automation, it's decision support at scale as I look at it. The AI agent gives your team the foresights to prevent stock out and overstock before it's too late. Now let's take a closer look with our second use case. The second use case here, procurement team typically are overwhelmed, even when better pricing is available. It's often buried in emails and expired contracts or scattered spreadsheets. So buyers default to known vendor, even if they are not the most cost effective. So in this demo, this agent takes the forecast demand we just generated that we saw in the last demo and runs across a cost optimization engine across vendors as well. And it benchmarks certain quotes, checks contract terms, and even reach out to vendors for updated pricing automatically. So right back to you, Gaurav, to show us.
Absolutely, Khan. Let me quickly share my screen again. Okay. So let me go back to the second use case. Okay. So this use case, we again, the starting point is again the spreadsheet. Okay. And so again, as we explained, right, this is a demo. So we are using the spreadsheet as an input and output, but in real world situations, it can integrate with any ERP systems, any like CRM system, any other system that you have, right? So it's like, but yeah, to keep it simple, we are just doing the spreadsheet. So coming back to the point side, so this is the output from the last step, and this is going to the input from the for the current step. So we predicted, okay, this is going to the forecast for next 6 months, right? And so coming back, so what we are going to do is like we are going to contact different vendors. So what the system is going to do, it's taking the data and it sees, okay, these are the we have identified the items that we want to order, and we have identified the quantity of how much quantity we want to order for each of the items, right? We want. And now what the system is going to do is it's going to let me run the system and we can talk and walk you through. So what it's going to do is like taking that data, it's identifying the items, it's identifying the quantity. Now it is identifying all the vendors in our system that sell those items, right? There are specific vendors that those will be selling these items. And while selecting those vendors, it is also checking for their contract. So what it happens is like sometimes their active contracts are there, right? And sometimes there could be a case that the vendor that we selected, the contract has just expired, right? And we don't want them to engage with that vendor until the contract has been renewed. So it will, in that, before sending the emails and selecting the vendor, it was going to check the contract as well. Okay. So after that, it sends out an email to all the vendors, reaching out to the vendors right after the selection. So so right now in this demo, we are not going to actually reach out to actual vendors, but we have like selected one of our own emails, so we can just walk you through. So let me go back here. So as we just see, right, so we got these different vendors. So there are like 6 vendors that the system selected for different items. Okay, let me go one by one. So this vendor has 1 items that we want. So purchase code are created for each of the vendors. So this vendor, there are like again 5 different items that we want to get, and like, yeah, this vendor, they sell more items. Okay, Yes, so all these are there, and then we have the order quantity also, how much we want to purchase. So we see all this vendors, right? So we see all the purchase code. So now what I'm going to do is like I'm right now going to wear the hat of a vendor, right? So I'm going to pretend that I am a vendor, and I'm then responding back to the company, right? That with the price and all. So let me do that quickly. It will just like take a couple of minutes to just enter some data points I have here. 1 second. Okay. So we start with the first one. So I will go just, so it's very easy. We made it very easy. So they can take this table format, right? So everything is in the table for, they can just reply to it. See the prices below, right? Simple. And they just paste the same table and I can just put the price. Okay. Let's say this is the price for it and just click send. So you have to just bear with me. So I'm just going to go one by one. So we have enough data points so we can compare and just see, right?
This kind of brought a thought here. We often talk about such thing as contract intelligence or contract management. Let's start with that. So with the AI agent that we're seeing here, the possibility, with the agent reading the contract term per vendor, pulling out that expiration dates or pricing tier and renewal clauses and obligation and so on. It's not just a rigid process, but with the intelligence behind it, and over time it get better with more data and more training. It helped us to really help to clean up as well. And we often hear things about legacy and tech debt and so on. Well, there's a thing called a data debt, in lack of a better word. So this is one of the sometimes an implied benefit that we don't often talk about. And obviously, with what I'm seeing here on the screen that you're doing, Gaurav, pretending to be the vendor to respond back.
Yeah, I'm just wearing that hat.
Yeah.
Now.
Yes, this for the demo purpose here. Obviously, there are a lot more back and forth in a real world scenario, and that contribute to significant delay time. And in a world of 24/7, that is a detriment to certain business, depending on what your business is about and your model. So, and also this way, we talk about visibility, we talk about speed, but retention, right? Audit trail, you name it, is automatically being tracked within the workflow and the system itself, so that there are, potentially historical pricing, which add more context to future AI, agent that we might want to add on, to the scope of this, in a real world production system, right? So, so such thing as if a SKU is overpriced, it would flag a review, for example, and so on and so forth. So that's just some of the thought I had, as I'm watching this.
Gaurav and Khan, we are receiving a few questions coming in, and just to let everyone know, we will get to those questions at the end once we are done with the live action demo.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Ruby. And definitely, we're excited to get to that, part of the agenda to make sure that we can cover as much, questions as we can. Kind of going back to this demo here, we talk about vendor outreach, which is what's being demonstrated here. There are a certain level of negotiation that could go on, with the manual process and even with AI agent behind the scene, So the AI agent proactively emails flag vendor in this case, requesting updated pricing and lead time. So with that certain bonus logic, as we might call it, the agent could include volume forecast and commitment window to strengthen the negotiation. So it's almost like that co-pilot concept, right? A second brain to really help you think through the, as you go through the process instead of just reacting to it. And it listened to email replies via, the inbox integration. So what the demo here, it seemed that we are integrating with, Google Mail here, right? And, no matter what type of mail system you use, and Microsoft, Outlook and such, that can be easily done. But the key aspect I assume here is that that level of visibility, that insight really helped to enhance not just the process time, but also the negotiation process that follow.
So yeah, finally I'm done. So again, sorry
No
for the
problem.
delay. So it took a little bit time, yeah. But we want to have multiple data points, right? Otherwise, it will not make much sense. So okay, so we have completed this step, right? So in this step, we created all selected items, selected the vendor, sent out all those emails to them, and what we will expect from the vendor side is, they will just reply to those emails and send the price. So that's what I was doing. So let's assume that like all those vendors has now replied to our email with the prices, the best prices that each of them can provide for those items. So let me run the next workflow. Okay, so let me run and then I will just walk you through also. So what this workflow is doing right now, it's just whatever email we have sent in the previous steps, right? It's reading all those emails, okay, and it's sending the email to the AI model, and the AI model is going to extract the prices from them, right? So normally in like a manual use case, right, like it's like a very time taking process. So you have to, as a person, right, like purchase head or something, like you go into this all those emails. There could be 50, 100 emails in a live scenario, right? And you then take all these data point, put it in on Excel, right, and then try to compare, right, like which vendor has given a low price for which of the items. So it's like a very tedious process, right? And it's like a time taking process, and it's prone to human errors as well. So but as we just saw, so it completed like within a minute or so, right? Like the whole process was done within a minute. And if I go back to an Excel sheet, what it did was like, so I come back here, so vendor prices. So you see, it automatically created this sheet. So these are all the different POs we just created for these, right? And I just entered these prices when I was trying to pretend to be a vendor. And you see all these prices are there for all of this item. So let me pick one of these items so we can focus them later on. So let's see this item, right? So we see there's a item number 037, okay, from this vendor THA001. And the price that they provide was $0.49, right? And let's see if the same item we can find here. Okay, yeah. So we say there is another like same item, another vendor NAT003. They provide a price of 0.52. So as we see, there's a difference, right? So this vendor provides 0.52, this vendor provides 0.9. So obviously we are going to pick a lower price, right? When we are ordering like around 76,000 of quantity from a vendor, every cent matter, right? So the system would automatically try to pick this as a vendor and ignore the other ones, right? So again, so let me go to the workflow. So this workflow, this use case, we are now complete, Khan. So back to you.
Thank you, Gaurav. So the result here, let me emphasize that the result here, the team would see exactly where we're overpaying, just like what you just shown, Gaurav, and gets pricings aligned with the real needs. So no delays, no missed clauses, no over reliance on memory or word of mouth, right? That came to mind a number of opportunity that we're not even covering in this demo, such as the tech bundle SKU saving. This SKU is overpriced, but you could save 18% by bundling with related SKUs under a different vendor. Or another opportunity could be mapping vendor risk and cost together. The AI agent can suggest the lower risk plus the best price vendor, not just the cheapest. So that's a risk management aspect of it. And then I was thinking another third opportunity would be to push into strategic sourcing alerts so that it can trigger quarterly reviews or sourcing events based on persistent overpricing. So I can go on and on, right? But let's go to the third and final use case here. And that's really focusing on the automated purchase order. Now, even after you've done forecasted demand and optimize vendor pricing, you still need someone to actually create and send the POs. And that's where most team hits delays, manual PO entry, outdated templates, approval bottlenecks, and errors that just ripple across receiving and invoicing. So with this demo, this AI agent will help to close the loop. It would take your optimized vendor list and forecast the demand and turn that into a clean, timely, and accurate POs. So Gaurav, please show us the final demo.
Sure, Khan. So let me quickly share the screen again. So back to my screen now. So as we said, right, like last step, the input was, like so output was all these different vendors and prices and everything. So so the use case for this is to generate automated POs, right? So what the system is going to do is like, as we mentioned, it's like taking all the data, it's picking out the vendors who have provided like the lowest price for each of those items, right? It is trying to get all those information and trying to create the PO. So let me quickly run this. This is going to be less time taking. So it will take all this data, process that data, find out, again, like which vendors we should order that particular item with. And when it have selected all those vendors, it is going to shoot out and purchase order email. So it's like 2-step. So it will like input all the data into the Excel sheet, but in the real world scenario, what it will do is like through APIs, right? It will add those POs into your system. It could be a draft mode or it could be a live PO depending on how you want it, right? And also, it will like send them email. So if you want them, so the automatic, like after the POs are created in the system, the agent can automatically send the emails to each of the vendors with the respective purchase order. Okay. So I think it's just taking a few more seconds to run, and then
So just as it's running here, I'm just thinking, Gaurav, so we optimize the vendor SKU table from the last use case, right? And, as we're running through this, some potential thought of enhancement or scaling, the agent can also consider freight consolidation, container fill rate and minimum quantity threshold before it create the orders, right? So really come down to, the consolidation of POs by vendor, flag underfill container for planning review and so on and so forth, as is, running through this engine to auto generate a PO. So it's not just blindly generate through, but really we can apply a lot more intelligence to this engine.
Yeah, definitely, Khan. So we can add more layers of intelligence into it in a real world scenario, like as per the demand of the company, right? Like what our business logics we want to add and which all logics. So yeah, definitely that can be done. And so I see the process now complete. So first, let me go back to the Excel sheet that again we are taking as a here. So in this case, it created like POs, right? So it selected one item for this particular vendor, 4 for this, and then so on. So this is kind of data that would normally be going into your ERP and creating those POs, right? And also let me go back and see. So as you see, we have now the system has also sent out the emails to the vendors, right? So it has created POs. So one PO, right? Like this PO with multiple of the items, and this. So if we have all the so here, let me get show you one thing, right? So we initially 6 of the vendors, like sent out the prices for us, right? But the system now it has selected only 5 vendors to send out the POs because the other vendors the prices were high, right? So let me give an example, right? So we talked about the vendor, right? So this item, you remember, we saw that okay, this was the 49 was the price from this particular vendor, and for the same item, if we go back to the prices, right? So for the same item, this 37, yeah. So net this 003 what 0 it was the price was 0.52. So this we see the system intelligently it ignored this particular vendor because it knew, right, the prices for this item was lower from this vendor. So it automatically took that decision and remove the item from that vendor's list and only add for the current vendor. So just in this way we have created all those POs automatically into the system, and I think it's completed, but I just want to give you an overview. So this is like just like the complete overview of what we did like in the 3 use cases, right? This is the whole system, but it's like it's in a simpler format for the demo, but it could be get more complex and more elaborate and more intelligent as per the needs the client has, right? So again, back to you, Khan.
Thank you, Gaurav. So So that's a lot to digest in a very short time, but really to emphasize the point here, what we just see here is a slither or potential that can turn procurement from reacting or reactive firefighting to a more proactive execution, right? So no bottlenecks, no missed POs, no duplicate entries, just one agent quietly moving deals, forward on your behalf. So as Gaurav had touched on, we can scale, we can, add a lot more workflow and complexity if needed into the overall business model here, enabling them, such as, additional opportunity like dynamic approval routing based on risk and spend, which auto escalate to the manager if total PO is over a certain amount of dollars and vendor score is under a certain, criteria. Or another opportunity would be to trigger PO adjustment. If lead times shift after the PO is created, the AI agent can suggest quantity order or delivery date adjustment. So I can go on and on, but overall, we have seen what AI agent can actually do, from forecasting demand to optimizing vendors and auto-generating POs. So these were not mock-ups. These are real working flows, the kind that we have helped organizations build and deploy in just a matter of weeks. So more value and less shiny object syndrome. That's how I would look at it. Now you might be thinking, that's great, but how does this work in my environment? That's exactly what we have designed our pilots to answer. First, we can start small with a low risk pilot tailored to a use case that matters to you. You don't need a new system. These AI agents plug into your existing ERP, spreadsheet, or leveraging the APIs that's necessary without disrupting what's already working. And we understand, AI introduced, new questions around data security, governance, and compliance. And in the world of healthcare, sometimes it's, HIPAA and so on and so forth, right? That's why every pilot includes proper controls based on your data, audit and access and compliance requirements. In most of these use cases, like the ones we just showed you, can be stood up as a pilot in 4 to 8 weeks. Because we're not selling a platform, we're delivering outcome-driven AI agents, not one business problem at a time. So how can I get started? Typical question we get. By now, you've seen what's possible, but I know the real question on your mind is, how do we take the first step without disrupting everything else we are responsible for, especially with IT, right? There are 2 ways we structure this, depending on where your organization is today. So option 1, start with an AI pilot development. If you have clarity on 1 or 2 key challenges, say forecasting, pricing accuracy, or purchase cycle time, we can build an AI agent to address that specific problem. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress, incremental progress quickly. Most pilots like this are scoped and delivered in 4 to 8 weeks using the systems and data you already have in place. The second option here is to start with an innovation workshop. Sometimes the conversation needs to start 1 or 2 level up in the organization. You might have multiple systems, cross-functional inefficiency, or simply want to understand where AI fits across your business. That's where our 4-hour innovation workshop comes in. It is designed to help leadership teams step back, prioritize the opportunity, and identify what's worth building. Possibly the foundational multi-agent that would help to orchestrate automation going forward. Both of these options are designed to help you move forward responsibly, grounded in your data, your real data, your system, and your business needs. So with that, I think we are now toward the end of the hour here, and I want to make sure that we have some time left for Q&A. So Ruby, if you can help, share with us what question we can cover here.
Sure. Thank you, Gaurav and Khan, for that insightful walkthrough of how AI can be applied through real procurement use cases. We have received several great questions from the audience, and I know we have around 12 minutes remaining, so we wouldn't be able to get through all of them today. But we'll try to answer as many as we can. And for the questions that we don't cover, we will follow up with you afterwards. So just a couple of questions that we received. So let's start with, does the agent extract from the spreadsheet only, or can it be integrated in ERP?
So Ruby, I can answer that. So as I mentioned also in the demo, right? So this is just like the Excel part was just for the demo to have the ease of information. But the agent can definitely interact with any ERP systems, right, across the board, and it can interact through the APIs, or it can interact directly into the database. But there are like many options, and it depends on how your system are structured, right, across the organization. So it's very much possible.
Okay. All right. And I think the second question is also kind of related. How do these AI agents integrate with our existing systems?
I think it's like would be the similar answer, right? That we can integrate these, or depending on like how your systems are structured. But there are like multiple options. If you're a closed system, we can like do through like data extractions, right? Through like Excel sheets or other databases, or we can directly connect to your database if there are like their old system, legal system, they don't have APIs available. But if the APIs are available right at a cloud system, that it gets much easier, right? So we directly connect to the APIs, secure APIs, and so the input and the data processed through those APIs.
Thank you. And Khan, you were just talking about the security and compliance. So we received one question on how do you handle security and compliance in these pilots?
So that's an excellent question. Especially in a highly regulated environment or industry. So everything we build is aligned with your, the client's governance model. The data stay in the client's environment or flow through secure channel that, in this case, the client would approve based on their strict procedure. The agent, I would highlight that it respects the role-based access, approval threshold, and obviously the audit trail. And we include a governance review as part of every pilot. Typically, at the very beginning, we make sure that not just the discrete requirement of the functionality, but also what I sometimes call non-functional requirements that are related to this type of compliance, and make sure we understand that as part of our success metric, right? And then throughout the construction of the pilot, we make sure that we establish that as a key control point, and obviously, at the very end, have a proper review so that we're successfully deliver what is required. So hopefully that would help.
All right. We have time, I think, for one more question, and it is around the data completion or if the data is messy. So what if our data is messy or incomplete?
So yeah, Ruby, I can take that one. So again, like no system is perfect, right? So sometimes you have one system, sometimes you have like a few systems working together, right? So it's not always easy to get the perfect data. And we're not looking for perfect data. So these AI models in these days, right, they are getting smarter, and they work with imperfect data also. And we extract the data so that from different systems, right? So we sometimes create reports, sometimes the APIs are there. So it's like you don't have to have the perfect data in place to get started. So it's not an issue right now. Yeah.
All right, we are almost reaching time, but let's take one more question. And Khan, I think you also answered this one in the last slide, but how soon can we expect to see results from a pilot?
So yeah, so most pilots that we have been through show value within 4 to 8 weeks. The key is to define a very clear success metric that I just mentioned earlier, such as cost saving or time save, accuracy improvement, and then measure it against a real workflow if there is one already in place. That way you walk away with not just a working agent, but a clear business case for scaling it further. And then we can help you with that as well if needed. It's not just a one time and walk away. So it's a journey to get better, but incrementally progressing.
Okay, and I think I just missed another question. The question was around, does the AI agent store the info, or is the info exposed to third-party companies? So I don't know, Gaurav or Khan.
Yeah, so yeah, I can take that one, Ruby. So yeah, so these AI agent, itself doesn't store any of the information. So they only process, so they get the input, different formats, and they process all the information and output the information that we store in our databases, right? So it all depends, right? If you have like a on-prem environment or you have a cloud environment, how it is set up, what is your security needs, but and like the compliance requirements. So it depends on that, but it is not actually stored anywhere within the agent itself, right? So yeah, it's like very secure, and we shouldn't worry about that data security. Yeah.
All right, so we have a couple of minutes still remaining, but again, thank you all for joining us today and taking time to go through this demo. And I hope these demos gave you the practical view of what's possible with AI. And if you would like to explore whether these kind of situations make sense for you and for your organization, here's a QR code. This will take you to a short page, which will give you the ability to schedule a 30-minute conversation with us. This is not a commitment. It's just a focused discussion to see if there is a fit. And that's it from us. And on behalf of the entire Captivix team, thank you again for joining, and we hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.